top link bar is a horizontal menu that displays across the top of a page, and it's the primary navigation for most SharePoint sites. You can configure and control via the browser, or if you're using the server-side object model, the SP navigation class, or you can use the module feature element, as well as the nav bars element, and if you're using a site definition and the web template feature element. The quick launch menu is the vertical menu that you see on the left side of the page. So you can see here's a typical quick launch menu on a SharePoint 2013 team site. When you first create it, it creates a document library. You can see that right there. Same classes as the top link bar. And there's some additional controls in the left area. So there's left actions as well as the quick launch bottom. So the quick launch bottom is what you see when you see site contents. That's actually part of the quick launch bottom. And there's also contextual and secondary navigation. So, for example, if we were to add some documents to the documents library, you would see the recently modified documents underneath the documents document library. So what we're going to do now is we're going to configure the top link bar and the quick launch menu. So in this demo, I'm going to configure the top link bar and the quick launch menu using the browser. So this is just the standard out-of-the-box team site that I created when I created my site collection called Test Site Collection. And so I'm going to notice how the default first link here in the top link bar is just the site. So in our case, it's the title of the site, Test Site Collection. And I'm going to go here to Site Settings and just click top link bar. And I can just add a new navigation link here. So if I want to add I'll add a link to the settings for the site, or to the content, to the site contents for the site. That's 15. I'll just call it all content. It's the same link as site contents, but we'll just call it all content so we can differentiate it. Click OK, and let's go back to the home page. And you can see all content now points to that site contents page, and if I click site contents, it'll go there as well. Now I can also edit it. This is new in SharePoint 2013. I can edit it right here in the UI, directly in line on the page. So if I click edit links, let's say for example I don't want this link here, I can just delete it and then save that. And so that's just a nice little UI improvement there. So now if I want to change the quick launch, I can do that too. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to go to site contents. I'm going to add a links list to the site, and I'll just call it my links. I'll give it a better name. Site links. How about that? Okay. Create that. Advanced options. I'm not going to give a description. Okay, so now we have site links, and it automatically added here. I don't want it to do that yet, so let me go to the list settings. Let's go to let's see, navigation, list name, description, navigation, and I don't want that displayed on the quick launch, so I'm going to save that. And okay, that's interesting, it's still showing here, so I'm going to go ahead and edit links, and let's just remove this, save that. Okay, so I still have that there. So now what I want to do, I'm going to go into site settings again, go to quick launch, and I'm going to add a new link. and we'll make it point to the links list. I believe that's the right URL. Oh, actually, I'll just call it site links. And actually, let's just make sure that that is the correct URL. So, the site contents, site links. It's probably not. Site links. Okay, so give me a space in there. Site links. Okay, save that. So now, if I click here, that should go to that list. Okay, that's okay. We can fix that. Forgot the lists. Okay, so let's just edit our links here. Save that. Just our alternate way of getting there. Okay, now when I click here, that's going to take me to site links. Okay, that's fine. Now what I want to do is, well, I'm going to go into the settings of that site links list, and I'm going to tell it, let's go back to the navigation, I want it to display on the quick launch. Now notice how I have a duplicate entry here. The reason is when we tell it to show up on quick launch, then SharePoint is using the server object model, and it's putting an extra entry here, but this entry is different than this one. We manually put this one here. This one was controlled by the list. So this one actually right here, this site links link in our quick launch menu, that's actually security trimmed. This one is not. And so if I, if I turn it off in the list, it won't show up here. But this one is manually linked, and so when you manually add things to quick launch bar, by default they're not security trimmed. Now you can change that, but you can use audiences to see who can see the link or not. But without doing anything, the typical way you would do this, you would control it from the list level. So that's a quick overview of using the top link bar and the quick launch menu. So just like we added the menu items through the browser, we can also easily do that with code. And Microsoft gives us the Microsoft.SharePoint.navigation namespace in the server object model. Key classes are the SP navigation class, which is the navigation property off of the SP web, and then the SP navigation node collection. And so there's two properties off of spweb.navigation that give us a really nice shortcut way to get there. So there's the top navigation bar property, which will return that SP navigation node collection, as well as quick launch. So that allows us to easily add items to the top navigation and the quick launch programmatically. And then the SP navigation node are the individual menu items in that collection. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add some items to the top link bar using the server object model. Okay, so I have Visual Studio open right now, and I'm going to add some items to the top link bar using the object model in a console application. So I've already created a blank solution, so I'm going to add a new project. And we're just going to add a console application. I'll call it Chapter 14. Okay, now we need to add a reference to SharePoint. So I'll add the SharePoint DLL. Okay. I'll type in the standard using statement for the SP site. Get our references set here to our namespace. Okay, that's good. And our using statement in there for our SP web. Now we need to add a reference to the SP navigation, or to the navigation namespace. Okay. So we're going to get a handle on the top bar, so we'll go to web.navigation, and we have this nice handy shortcut for top navigation bar. And we're just going to add node to the last position. Oops, I want to add as last. And we'll have a new SP navigation node. Call it site links. And we've got to give it our the URL. So okay, close that off. And let's go ahead and just run that, and it should create a link. So let's go back to our site. Let's make sure it's not there. So the top link bar is still clean. We're going to run this now. Oh, I forgot to do one thing. Let me close this, go into the console application, go to the project properties. I need to set the build to not prefer 32-bit because we're on a 64-bit machine here. So let me save that off, and then now we can run this. Okay, let's go check the site now. Do a refresh, and sure enough, here's our site links link on the top nav bar, so that looks good. So let's comment this out. Actually, let's comment this out. I don't want to add it twice. Let's just add another one. We'll add another node. So let's do, actually I can close, I'm going to comment that out as well. So I'll say SP navigation, node home equals web.navigation top navigation bar, which returns the collection. I want the first element, so that's going to give me that test site collection menu item. And then if I have a handle on that, now I want to add a child to that. So I can add, I'll do add as first. I actually need to use the children property. Add as first. And it's going to be a new SP navigation node, and this time it's going to be tasks, and that's going to go to, whoops, tasks list, which we don't have yet, but that's okay, we'll create that. Okay, so let me just go back to the site real quick, and we'll just add a tasks list. And let's call it tasks. Okay, just make sure, validate that. That looks good. Okay, great. Let's go back to code. Now let's run this. And we'll see if we get the tasks node in our top navigation. Okay, that looks like it completed, so let's go back to the site, refresh. And notice how it's a child, so it shows up as the drop-down menu. So we added task as a child of test site collection, so here it is right here. And we click here, we should go to the task list. And so you can see in this demo is fairly easy to add items to the top navigation menu or the top bar. And it's just as easily to do it to the quick launch, but we just picked the top bar to do that in this demo. So another way we can add menu links is using features. And so this will be using CAML, or Collaborative Application Markup Language, and it gives us the ability to add menu items declaratively instead of using code, using the module feature element. And when we do that, we have to use the navbar child element of the file element, and then the ID denotes the position of where it's going to go on the menu. So if it's 1002, that means top navbar. 1025 will be quick launch, and then 1003 lists, 1004 libraries, 1005 pictures, and then there's others which you can look up. So what I'm going to do now is go ahead and open up Visual Studio, and we'll just create a navbar page element, and we'll deploy it and show how it shows up in the menu. Okay, back in Visual Studio now, and we're going to look at how to add menu links with features using CAML. So I'm going to have a console application here, so I'm going to create a new project, and we'll go with the SharePoint empty project. I'll call it navigation. Let's call it navigation. Okay, so we're just going to be doing declarative stuff, so we don't need to have any code deployed, so I'll just use sandbox solution. And what I want to do is add a module. And I'll just call it navbar pages. That's fine. There's my feature. Now what I want to do is go to SharePoint Designer. We're going to deploy a page to the Site Pages library since we're in a team site here. We don't have publishing turned on, so it won't go to the publishing or the Pages library. So I'm going to go to Site Pages. I'm going to take the home page. I'll just edit that in advanced mode. And what I'm going to do is just copy all the content, close that out, open up Notepad, save that out. I believe I have a page already here, so I'll call it nav page. So replace that. Okay, we got our page. Now I'm going to go copy that, and I'm going to paste it into the module. So we have our navpage.aspx file here in our module. I'm going to remove sample.txt. So now what I want to do is set the URL here. So I'll set that to Site Pages. Fix the URL on our page here. I'm going to give it a different name. I'll just say, we'll call it test page. Test page 1, we'll do that. Let's make sure it's ghostable in library. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is add navbar page element. ID equals, let's go back to the slides real quick. Copy that, 1025, that's what we need. Okay, 1025. That's for a quick launch. So we're going to put this in the quick launch. And we'll just call it test page 1. And for position, we'll just say, for this one we'll say start. And let's just add another navbar page in here. Now in SharePoint 2013, it's not like in SharePoint 2010 and below, where in the team site you would have items for the lists and the documents. So it used to be like documents would be a node here that would have stuff underneath it, and then you'd have lists, or actually it would be libraries, lists. So it's not like that right now. So I don't have those elements. I can't use like the 1004 or 1003 for lists and libraries because they don't exist. So if you tried that, you'll get an error unless they already exist in your quick launch. So let's come back here. Call this one test page 2. We'll set that to the end. So this is going to put them on the quick launch. And I'm ready to deploy. So I'm going to go ahead and deploy this. Okay, so what's happening here is this page, we used navpage.aspx as kind of like our template, but it got provisioned as testpage1.aspx. And in the menuing, these links, these are two different links, but they're both pointing to the same page. So if we go into our site now, let's refresh the site. You can see here's test page 1, that's at the start. Test page 2, that's at the end. But they both go to the same page, and it's basically just that page is just a copy of the home page, because that's all we did. We copied home.aspx. So you can see it's pretty easy to provision menu items on the quick launch. I could have also done it to the top link bar, to the top bar. And this was a nice way to do it. Since it was all declarative, there was no code, I just went ahead and used a sandbox solution. No need to use a farm solution for this. Okay, when you create a subsite programmatically, the default configuration is going to give the subsite unique navigation that is independent of the subsite's parent site. In order to, a lot of times you want to have your subsites have the same top link bar as the parents, so you can have that consistent primary navigation across the site collection. And to do this, you just need to use the spweb.navigation.useShared property. You set that to true, and that will make your subsite use the same top link bar. So what we're going to do now is programmatically create a subsite and demonstrate how we can have shared navigation. Okay, we're back in the Visual Studio solution again, and this time I'm going to go back to my console application, and I'm just going to modify this. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a subsite. So first let's just check, make sure we don't have any subsites here already with the same name. Looks like it doesn't, so that's good. So I'm going to create a subsite programmatically. And I'll just call it call it subsite 1. Title subsite 1. Whoops. Description, we'll just leave that blank. Language ID, use 1033 for English. And the template we'll use, well, let's see here. Use team site. And unique permissions, we don't want unique permissions, so we'll say false. And we don't want to do this. We don't want to do that convert, so we'll say false. And that's it. Okay, so let's just run this first. Let's go ahead, I'll go ahead and run this, and let's make sure this is set as the startup project. It is. Okay, so I'll run this. This will create a new subsite called subsite 1. Okay, that's finished running. So now let's go back to our site, refresh it, and go to site contents and see if we have our subsite. And here's our subsite, subsite 1. But let's look at our, so here's our navigation here. We go to our subsite. It doesn't have the same navigation. So in fact, we go to so yeah, it does not have the same. So what I'm going to do now, let's go back to code. So let's go back to the root here. Let me just close that out. So let's go back to the root. Okay, and back to code. So now what we'll do is we'll create another one. We'll just call it subsite 2. And so we know this method is going to return an SP web. Okay. So what I'm going to do is when I get that instance of that new web, I'm going to go to the navigation property on it. And then I'll use the use shared. We'll set that to true. And we'll call update on that. Now I'll run this, and it's going to create a new subsite. Okay, that's finished running, so let's go back to the site, refresh it, go to site contents, look at subsite 2, and you can see subsite 2 has the same navigation because you can see here's the link to the test site collection. So if we come back up here, go to site contents, again just so you can see subsite 1 does not, it has a default going to the home page of the subsite. So you can see that's a good example of how we can use that use shared property when creating sites programmatically, so we can make sure we give the users that nice experience of having the same navigation as the parent site, so to keep everything nice and uniform.